organised and putting set plays on and all that sort of stuff, because this was their we're bigger than you, we're going to do that game.
There you are.
Yeah.
Fair play. So that's the first weekend of fixtures. On to last weekend then, and the first fixture was on Friday night as the Australians took on France. It finished 52 points to 6 in favour of the host nation. Wade Graham bagging 4 tries, including a really rapid hat-trick in the first half. Josh Dugan, Cameron Munster got a brace. Tyson Frizzell, Billy Slater and Val Holmes were all on the score sheet for Australia. And a bit of a collector's item, the try for France was Marc Kurala, but a lovely 100-yard dash near enough for him through broken play to
great pick
tie
up.
Things up 6-all.
Great pick up, great footwork. It was only 26, I think, at half time as well. France they were relatively competitive. They didn't get out their own end at all, and they didn't put any plays on at all. It didn't help that they've switched up their half-back pairing. They're doing a proper England through this tournament, aren't they? Being inconsistent with their skill, the sort of organising players. But they were not disgraced in the first half. Then in the second half, they didn't really ever... Australia, basically, the players took their chances, I suppose, is the best way to say it. Yeah. People like Graham, who scored his tries in the first half as well, but polished off his fourth in the second half. People like Frizzell. People who were given an opportunity to jump into the starting side, and that's where there's shirts to be won with in the back row with Jake Trbojević's injury after the first game, ruling him out the rest of the World Cup, which we didn't talk about before, but yeah. But I thought Regan Campbell-Gillard and Jordan McLean were massive again in this one. Every time you sort of looked at what was going on, they were dominating the middle of the field and getting, especially in that second half, middle stage of that second half, I suppose, giving Australia so much field position. France, Kurella, good on him.
There you go. That's about all you can say about the French. Right, so Saturday.
Well, Elwar worked hard, worked his socks off tackling away. Battieri undersized in the front row, but Elwar's not going to be around, and Battieri's going to be gassed. So
there you go. That's it. Saturday then saw the Kiwis put 74 points on Scotland, who managed a solitary 6. Bromwich, 2 for Nightingale. Tapine, Tamari Martin got a hat-trick, as did Peter Hiku. Russell Packer, who doesn't love a redemption story. Dean Farah, Sean Johnson and Taylor all crossing for the Kiwis. And it was Oscar Thomas who bagged Scotland's score.
Dr. Bob Phillips said, NZ were monsters, heartless, try-scoring, meter-crunching, Scot-crushing monsters.
Yes. Well, if you go virtually a point a minute...
They made more than 3 times the amount of metres.
Hardly surprising
that
Scotland
made. They made over 100 tackles less than them. They made 22 clean breaks in this game.
So it almost begs the question, why did they only manage to score 74 points?
Yeah, this is another game I didn't follow completely. In fact, I'll tell you what I did. I watched the first 60 minutes and then didn't watch the last 20 properly. I saved the last 20 until after I'd watched the England game and after I'd watched the Samoa Tonga game, and just kind of had it on whilst I was doing other stuff, because what does it matter? But the standing guys, Nightingale and Hiku, did themselves no harm. But they're not. They were just brought in as rotation, as squad use in an easy win game. So that's remarkable.
And Scotland are definitely easy beats, aren't they? So
yeah, they are. Yeah. I was again impressed by Nelson Asofa Solomona, and adding Fanua Blake as well was great in this one. Although he looks like this was his only shot. Warrior Hargreaves and Tapau started the game. They did well. There was offloads everywhere for that early period of the game from New Zealand, and then it was just use your physicality, because Scotland ain't got none. I mean, Luke Douglas worked hard. He's going to be captain next time around. 40 tackles from him, but I mean, 64 missed tackles in this game from Scotland.
It's atrocious, isn't it?
The only time I've ever seen a figure like that in the Super League pod times was
probably
was Hull KR against Wigan, when Wigan put 60 on them 3 seasons ago, when it was the George Williams show game. That one is real coming out party as being like, I can run everyone ragged kind of thing.
Very
and
good.
Liam Farrell scored a try straight from a tap penalty and stuff like that. It was like that woeful a performance.
Right.
And this is in that range in terms of the missed tackle stats. It was, yeah.
Well, let's not linger too long on that
They only threw
one-sided game.
79 passes.
Fucking hell. Let's not linger too long on that shoeing, though, and talk about Samoa versus Tonga. Much anticipated. There had been street violence in the lead up to this that had called for both sides, key players, to get out on social media and on the television and call for calm. It finished Samoa 18, Tonga 32. Samoa's tries coming from Tevega, Roberts and Lafai, whilst it was Jennings, Terepo, Murdoch Masila and Manu Mau for the Tongans.
Yeah, Murdoch Masila's try for me was a double movement. I don't understand how that was giving us a try after it was sent up no try. But he came in and did a good stint off the bench. What I would say in this one is, what an exciting game! What a start to it! What a way through it! But Tonga were always clearly just that touch ahead.
Yeah.
Their forward pack was hugely dominant. Fafita 140 metres, Takiyaho, who was unbelievable, 206 metres, Manu Ma'u 122 metres, Jason Tamalolo 157 metres, whereas Junior Paulo was the only one to go over 100 metres for Samoa in the pack. So that's huge. Mm-hmm. The other thing I think that really stood out for me is David Fuzatu had to go to fullback when Hawaii went off injured, yet that didn't really upset things too much, which is strange because you wouldn't think Fuzatu would link the play up as well and stuff like that. But Tonga were able to be a bit more structured and were able to finish sets so much better.
Yeah.
Atto Ngannou in this game showed me he can be a halfback of some sort of level, whereas I've never really seen it from him before. That he can control things, force repeat sets. They had 9 retained kicks, so 9 kicks ended up with them getting possession back themselves through, goal line dropouts being forced or errors being forced or that sort of thing. Did Tonga. Samoa didn't quite have that same thing. We know what Ben Roberts is good at. We know that it's not controlling a game of rugby league necessarily, and with Jerome Luai next to him, he just looked completely out of place, I thought, in that regard. And I just think that they weren't going to be able to do enough. They had, exciting desperation stuff thrown in, people like Joey Leilua and the skill sets he's got.
Yeah.
But it just was never ever going to be enough. And when they're making mistakes on their own line, like the one that led to Jennings' I think first try, maybe it was his second try, it's just going to be too much of a mountain to come back from, I would say, for a team like Samoa, who need to be perfect, because they don't have they don't quite have the organisation to the same level that Tonga appear to have had in this. And then Tonga's forward pack, wow.
Yes, that is wow, isn't it? Okay, on to England's second game of the tournament then. It was England 29, the Lebanon 10 tries from Cal Watkins, Jermaine McGilvray, Ryan Hall, Ben Curry and Thomas Burgess. And Lebanon's coming through Nick Cassis and Weeby.
Neil McEwen said, pretty boring game to be honest, no start from England, just jammed it up the middle, halfback's pretty average, Bateman is 100% not a centre, this team will struggle against NZ or Tonga. There
you go, Cutthroat Jake said, England are still a work in progress. Widdop needs to remember what made him so good in the NRL. Luke Gale proved once more he can only play if Hardacre is playing too. And as for Robbie Farah complaining about having a bite mark, that was like John Apoati moaning he had a shitty finger.
Rich Langley said, on the one hand, it was a job done. If we get through to the final, all's good. On the other hand, we need to be putting in better performances and putting teams like Lebanon away convincingly. Torn between keeping the same team to create consistent combinations or trying something different. Not a lot of choice, though. Feel like they will still come good, though.
Okay, Dr. Bob Phillips says, not great by England. I think McGilvray was snacking on Farah because he'd been distracted by the KFC ad on the pitch. Did anyone else keep noting Hall is about 50% bigger than Bateman, his centre? Hall looks increasingly like a second rower.
It's about 50% bigger than Ben Curry's second rower as well, I would say. Lee Whitnell said, pretty uninspiring stuff from the boys. The performance was a step backwards from last week, but good to get the win. The halves are both much better than what they're showing. I expected to see them build pressure with smart kicks in the second half, but there was no evidence that they're actually capable of this. Hopefully we'll see more next week. They need to click soon.
Yeah.
Well, I think in the second half, they probably did build a bit more pressure in the kick. I remember Gale had his only decent kick of the tournament so far, midway through that second half, when he forced a goal line dropout. And I think the same happened over the other side a little bit earlier. But I take on board that the halfbacks haven't worked together well enough or created it.
No, far from it for me. And the thing is, what you think of as Wayne Bennett's first choice selection at halfback, which to all intents and purposes seemed like it was going to be Gale and Widdop, are not going to get a game together in that fashion against France to build some consistency. And where you think England are going to have the ball in their hand more, they're not going to get that opportunity to prep and play in that way. They're going to be switched about again.
Well, we had the ball in our hands plenty this time. We had, 39.
The ball isn't in Luke Gale's hand particularly very much either. Now, I know he's not played very well, but Josh Hodgson seems unable to distribute it anywhere apart from...
Well, Luke Gale actually threw the same amount of passes as Gareth Widdop, but he ran with the ball half as much. So yeah. I'll tell you this about Luke Gale.
Go on.
I think, and I should have mentioned this in the Australia game, I think he's defended a lot better than I normally see him defend in this tournament.
Yeah.
Obviously, eventually the pressure was going to tell on him in that Australia game, and it didn't help him that Bateman kind of hasn't been taught to defend like a centre.
No.
Which is a shame, because, he did show an offload to set his winger up for a just about try that Ryan Hall grab against Lebanon, and he did. He works hard, he does well in the middle of the field, but goal line defence, he needs to be more aggressive, which is something you wouldn't expect to say of John Bateman.
No.
And I think it's caused a couple of tries. One of the Lebanon tries at the end of this, and one of the tries that Australia scored too, were caused by him sort of being a little bit on his heels.
Yeah. Which is odd, because I anticipate the thing that justified John Bateman in at centre in my mind was because it was a defensive move. He wanted to shore things up defensively.
I'd swap him round. I'd have Curry in the centre position, and Bateman in the second row position, personally. But hey ho. Do you know what? Jerry McGilvery was our biggest meter maker. Scored a try. Was constant threat.
He's been the best player in England shirt for the last 18 months, Mark.
It's just ridiculous, isn't it? I actually think Thomas Burgess, I know he scored that rampaging try that got a lot of his 167 metres, but he was also pretty fearsome. And Walmsley off the bench too.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that Hannington's out of the conversation, even though it doesn't appear to be. I hope Taylor can impose his place in the team as well, and then, we won't be talking about a passenger who's not done anything terrible, but not done much either.
No.
In terms of stuff here, I think defensively England were pretty sound in this game for the most part, so that was good. But it's the attack that I'm worried about.
Yeah.
We couldn't convert all that pressure in the second half against Australia, and we couldn't get ourselves up the field too much here. Now, I know the conditions weren't great.
Still though.
Which hampers you a bit, because you sort of double clutching, your passes a little bit, or you're slowing down your processes, which means people have got an opportunity to rush up. And Lebanon were doing that. For Lebanon, Twal made 91 metres again, 52 tackles.
Wow.
Without missing a tackle. That was amazing.
Roby-esque, that, innit?
So, yeah, or Hodgson, yeah.
Houghton-esque.
Houghton-esque, yeah. But yeah, so that was good. But that was kind of it for Lebanon. England weren't really ever threatened by them, even though they scored that try from that Robbie Farah kick, which was a really good kick. I don't want to blame Widdop too much for fumbling it. He had to play it, and it just, the conditions and the quality of the kick and stuff just beat him to it, and then the enthusiasm of Cassis to get there.
Yeah.
You just felt so frustrated and underwhelmed, didn't you?
Yeah.
And no one was in both games, no one's been really terrible. Like, people are slagging Gale. I don't think Gale's been that terrible. I just don't think he's been that good.
He just hasn't kicked the way that we want him to. But the thing is, we've got to expect from Luke Gale that he's not playing on that little pitch at Castleford anymore.
It's not his kicking.
I feel like
it's not his kicking that's been the issue.
His
kicking hasn't been great. Both of the kicking games haven't been great. But for me, the issue is he hasn't imposed himself at all on the play.
He feels like he's not got the confidence that he had in the regular season.
I think that of all of the players, though.
Yeah, true.
And when Wayne Bennett comes out with his absolute fucking bullshit interview after the game that he had with Dave Woods, you just hope to God that isn't what the players are seeing. No. But when you see how they're playing and they're all scared, You feel like they don't want to get all grumpy guts, annoyed at them.
Yeah.
That's what I feel like when I'm seeing how they're playing. Because they're not playing how we know they can play.
No, well, that's the thing. They look like they're within themselves.